Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. 1 2.
Okay, for now I can mute this line and let's then. Should I leave the Zoom line open or you can let me get someone to stay? Because it's playing things in the house, Zoom recording and start. from Zoom. No, I'll be listening, but it's okay. I can leave it open. So that someone does not just begin speaking, go straight to the house. Everyone muted and listen. Hmm? Listen, they can hear. It's not affected. This is the sound coming from Zoom.
have resumed proceedings. You may take your seats. We proceed to item number 3 on the order paper, laying of papers, Roman 1 and Roman 2.
Is the minister around? Honorable Minister.
Right, Honorable Speaker, honorable members, in accordance with the provision of Article 134.3 of the Treaty for the Establishment of East Africa Community, I beg to lay on the table the following audited financial statements of the East Africa Community organs, institutions, and projects for the financial year ending 30th June 2023. A. East Africa Community organs that has 3 components, that is East Africa Community Secretariat, 2 East Africa Court of Justice, and East Africa Legislative Assembly. The 3 organs are located in the East Africa Community headquarters in Arusha, Tanzania. B. East Africa institutions, and there are 8 in numbers. Inter-University Council for East Africa in Kampala, Republic of Uganda. The 2 is Lake Victoria Basin Commission in Kisumu, Republic of Kenya. 3, Civil Aviation Safety and Security Oversight Agency in Entebbe, Republic of Uganda. 4, Lake Victoria Fisheries Organization in Jinja, Republic of Uganda. 5, East African Competition Authority in Arusha, United Republic of Tanzania. Number 6 is East Africa Science and Technology Commission in Kigali, Republic of Rwanda. 7, the East Africa Health Research Commission in Bujumbura, Republic of Burundi. And then 8, East Africa Kiswahili Commission in Zanzibar, United Republic of Tanzania. Mr. Speaker, sir, each and every organ, institution, and projects has got a management letter which forms an integral part of the audit report. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay.
Oh, it's like a nice gift there.
Item 3, Roman 2.
But before we go there, I refer this report to the account committee. Honorable Minister, you can proceed.
It's still on laying of papers. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table the report on foreign and security policies of East Africa Community for the period 2023-2022, 22-2023, pursuant of Article 59, 3C of the treaty. I beg to lay.
Item number 4 on the order paper.
We have it. This is referred to Regional Affairs Committee.
Item number 4 on the order paper. Motion for a resolution of the Assembly recommending to the Council of Ministers to urge partner states to implement appropriate measures to prevent and manage food loss and wastage. Motion.
Honorable Umukiza Françoise to move the motion.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move a motion that this Assembly do resolve to recommend to the Council of Ministers to urge partner states to implement appropriate measures to prevent and manage food loss and wastage. I beg to move.
Do you have seconders? Honorable Sajja, Honorable Gideon, Honorable Msamari, and others. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you can now proceed.
Motion for a resolution of the Assembly recommending to the Council of Ministers to urge partner states to implement appropriate measures to prevent and manage food loss undertook in Article 105 to cooperate in the area of agriculture and food security in order to undertook in Article 105 to cooperate in the area of agriculture and food security in order to achieve food security within the community. And yes, under Article 110 of the treaty, the partner states agreed to harmonize food supply, nutrition, and food security policies and strategies, and to initiate and maintain strategic food reserves. Recognizing that all partner states are parties to the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights of 1966, which recognizes the right to adequate food for everyone in Article 11, paragraph 1 and 2, aware that Target 12.3 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs 2030, emphasizes halving per capita global food waste and consumer levels and reducing food losses along production and supply chains through the transformation of agri-food systems. Further recognizing that on 29th September 2023, the world observed the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste with a call to action for public and private entities to reduce food loss and waste through the transformation of agri-food systems. Acknowledging that the Council has adopted for the community the EAC food and nutrition security policy at home. Further concerned that about 1/3 of global food supplies are wasted or lost, 2.5 billion tons around the world, and in developing countries, 40% of food loss and waste occurs at the post-harvest and processing stages, with the highest magnitude of losses amongst fruits and vegetables, while for milk and dairies, losses occur at the distribution stage of the value chain. Aware that at the EAC level, the 2024 World Population Review indicates that food loss and waste are estimated at 103 kilograms per capita and 1.2 million tons per year for Burundi, 103 kilograms per capita and 8.9 million tons per year for DRC, 99 kilograms per capita and 5.4 million tons per year for Kenya, 164 kilograms per capita and 2.1 million tons per year for Rwanda, 103 kilograms per capita and 1.6 million tons per year for Somalia, 103 kilograms per capita and 1.1 million tons per year for South Sudan, 100 3 kilograms per capita and 4.5 million tons per year for Uganda and 119 kilograms per capita and 6.9 million tons per year for Tanzania. Recalling that the 23rd Ordinary Summit of EAC Heads of State held in November 2023 reaffirmed the commitment of the heads of state to address climate change and food security, including promotion of sustainable agricultural practices, investment in climate-resilient technologies, and the development of regional policies to foster adaptation and strengthen post-harvest handling, water harvesting, value addition, and irrigation. Convinced that it's urgent and necessary for partner states to act in order to fulfill the commitments under the treaty and of the summit of EAC head state by adopting innovative integrated approaches which offer the opportunity to prevent, reduce, and manage food loss and waste, as well as alleviate its negative impact on the environment, such as intelligent packaging, bio-packaging solutions, online food sharing services, climate-friendly refrigeration, or engagement or action for food security and nutrition towards food systems transformation. And this food system transformation is about leaving one behind.
Procedure. You have the mic there.
Right, Honorable Speaker, is it procedural right for a member to move a motion and you urge your member to, you okay member to proceed without asking whether they're seconders? Maybe we are not seconding them.
Where were you? Where were you?
No, I have been here, Right, Honorable Speaker.
No, maybe you were dreaming. We did it.
Maybe I was dreaming. That's what the Speaker says. And that is parliamentary for a Speaker to say like that. It's parliamentary for the Speaker to tell a member that a member is dreaming.
I think that I did it.
It's okay.
If you were there,
That's my case.
You were somewhere else.
I think that is right, Honorable Speaker,
Yes,
but I'm telling me that I'm
did
dreaming.
it, but the way you brought this, it was as if it was a disaster.
But is it parliamentary for you to tell me that I'm dreaming, Right, Honorable Speaker?
Further due, extreme hunger not only hurts, but as you said yesterday when we were considering, the accountability matters platform, you said that it is cancer. Corruption is cancer. Allow me also to let members and this August Assembly that hunger also kills as well as cancer. We need to feel hungry to understand the impact of hunger on our citizens. This community has got people that can afford 3 meals, even more, especially us. We have our breakfast from our hotels, then we proceed with our, what we call 10, or break coffee and tea, then lunchtime, then at 4 we have also break, then dinners, then, all those things. But we have citizens we represent that cannot even afford a meal per day. So this motion has just arrived to cater for these supplies of food we have, to make sure we also feed the hungriest in our community. Mr. Speaker, it is also anchored under 2 things. UN SDGs 2030. Not only that, also the African Union Aspiration Agenda 2063 that is saying leaving no one behind. It's our task as parliamentarians to make sure we feed our people. It's very, very key because we also use even their taxes. And we are also here protecting and securing right to food if we do this. Right to food is a fundamental right. It's not a privilege because people need to be fed and it's our role. And Mr. Speaker, as you can know, EAC is a people-centered and market or private sector-driven community. This is part of EAC principles. If you can read principle Article 7 of the treaty, you will find that. And when we talk of this centeredness, we are also referring to sustainable development as we talk of SDGs. But this community cannot kind of achieve this sustainable development if we still have food losses and waste systematically that are reducing the quantities of food and also are affecting like farmers tremendously. You know how farmers, most of them are women, and we're talking of leaving no one behind. They suffer from post-harvest loss, which leads to reduced income, reduced food and nutrition security, and which impact on their entire livelihoods. For large-scale businesses, they experience financial risk, which have a direct impact on their financial stability and waste disposal costs. I'm also referring this to the Committee on CTI. Trade is a part of supporting food loss and waste to make sure we also GDPs of our community and our countries. In addition, the environment suffers from greenhouses gas emissions, generally from food waste, whereas households are unable to access safe, quality, and inexpensive food. Last time I was with the Honorable Odongo to consider food prices. It's a problem, and it is really paramount that we found a solution by addressing these losses that we are having. Mr. Speaker, as I wind up, allow me to say two things. The first one is how food losses in our supermarkets. The time I was thinking of bringing in this motion, I had observed that in our supermarkets, when it comes time to find that the products are there ready to be dumped, they try to kind of discount a little bit for 1 month, but when it remains like 2 days, 3 days, they can't even think of giving to. So I just appealed to the Council of Ministers to make sure we initiate a new approach of supporting the food loss and to reduce food loss, even prevent, by approaching trade sellers to make sure we work in harmony and teach them how to give food to charity. And it's a good practice. I saw it's done in France. In France, they can't reach to expiry date. Before that, they give food to the poorest, the hungriest, so that they can take advantage on that food. So we should initiate this good practice. Secondly, as I said, in our respective, areas of having food, they call the restaurant, hotels, they can be everywhere. We should interrogate with our stomach before we serve ourselves, before we put food on our plates. Because sometimes we forget that we are just having things that the stomach doesn't need or the body doesn't need. And we end up by leaving the entire food at the plates. So it is also something that I would urge the Council of Ministers to raise awareness on, even members of Parliament to support this battle by being responsible, starting from ourselves. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you, Honorable.
The seconder of this motion is Honorable Paul Musamari. I can't see him. You are there? Okay. No, Honorable Kakoza. So, because we're sitting together.
Yes.
Honorable Kakoza James.
Yes.
It's because we were together, Honorable Musamari. Apologies for the oversight. And since Honorable Kakoza is not around, Honorable Guy Deng, he accepted to stand firm on his behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Francoise. Honorable members, the motion on the floor is that this Assembly do resolve to recommend to the Council of Ministers to urge partner states to implement appropriate measures to prevent and manage food loss and wastage. Debate is open, and we start by the seconder, who is Honorable Gaindeng.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to stand here today and second the motion by Honorable Francoise. As I was not the original seconder Obviously, I did not review in detail or made
aware that the East African community is also one of the RECs of the African Union. And the African Union already came up with a food strategy on the food sufficiency within the AU. And therefore, this motion is very timely for securing food among partner states, especially wastage. There are those people in Africa or in the EAC who go to bed without food. And food, when we're talking about food, it includes everything, including water, including, like for example, we have almost 319 million hectares of land in Africa, and of which half of this is from Eastern Africa that is degraded. And therefore, that is affected by desertification. In Uganda, for example, the whole of Karamoja sub-region. And I know that in most other countries, the same applies. Therefore, when we are talking about this motion on food loss and food wastage, it's important that the East African community looks at ways of putting in place food banks so that some of this can address issues, especially in a situation when we have droughts that affects our food in the different areas. Right, Honorable Speaker, we cannot talk about food loss and wastage without talking about the degraded land, which affects 46% of Africa's land area, and at least 485 million, which is equivalent to 65 people affected and going to bed, sometimes with only 1 meal a day. So therefore, Right Honorable Speaker, as we talk about food loss and food wastage, we see have been battling issues related to climate change, including droughts. As I speak now, I woke up and my home.
The Uganda chapter for the blessed hospitality they have given us. So let me go direct. So we cannot, overemphasize so much. Like I can give you an example of our country, South Sudan. There are states where they are, how do you call it? They are food secured, but in the rest of the state, there are food insecurity. So, like where I come from, just of last month, I visited my village. I was there for almost 2 weeks. There are plenty of fruit, everything, but the problem is the infrastructural problem. The roads are very poor, plus the flooding. So this calls for a concrete measures. That is to establish proper infrastructural facility right away from the state that has plenty of food that can feed the whole country. Also, besides that, we have the River Nile. We have so much fish that now you can see the only thing that we are trading in the community, the most one is the fish. But you could see how they preserve, like the fishermen and women. They do not have the innovative way on how to preserve, this fish so that it can be used for sustainability. Because why do you have to store food? You store food so that for self-sustainability. Because tomorrow you may not have. It is very sad that, for us we could eat a chicken broiler that has been for 1 year from Brazil, and yet we have, chickens, the beef that can get rotten the following day, imagine. Because we do not have that innovative facilities to help our people. So, it is very timely that we call for these motions. Because imagine a country which only utilizes 4% of its arable land, like my country, South Sudan. And yet, people are food insecure. Why? Because we have not, worked to the reality to do the right thing. Because what it's required of it is just proper infrastructural facility, which is one of the major problems, like in my country, South Sudan. And even on the onset, when we visited the farmers in Kisosi. Also, one of the farmers said during flooding, they cannot be able to take their products. So the traders come and buy from them at a cheaper price. Imagine.
Right. Right, Honorable Speaker, thank you so much for this opportunity to contribute in this very interesting and important motion. And I'd like also to thank Honorable Francos for bringing it out. So I support the motion because we all understand that this is very important as far as food security, food sufficiency, but at the same time, as it also implicates the, our climates. So there is a diverse of effects that we get from the food loss and the food waste. But I think it's also important that we look at it, that is, we have different parts of it. When we talk about the losses before it reaches a consumer, and when it's a waste is when it's edible, that is at the part where it has already reached the consumer. And for that case, I think it's very important we look on how our states could strengthen the supply chains. We have fragmented supply chains, which does not support forward and backward linkages, but we also have a limited participation of the private sector in our supply chain. So the missing link also contributes so much into having this problem. So I think as much as we recommend to the Council of Ministers, I think it's important that we also recommend that they promote private sector and civil society participation in order to mitigate these problems. But at the same time, in terms of investing in our supply chains so that they can really provide strong linkages and support forward and backward linkages. But also we have a problem as far as data. I think we have the data governance in this particular aspect is still weak. We don't understand the extent of the problem. You know, data and information is not there. So I think we need that intelligence which can be able to capture data. But I also think that in the community we can also foster the circular economy. This is very important, and that is what is in the modern societies. That is, we make sure that when it reaches to a point that it is a waste, it is not, it's not like it has no value, as it has been said by the seconder of this particular motion. So I think it's important that we recommend to the Council of Ministers to see how the partner states they can.
Others, we must also think about promoting consumer awareness and behavioral changes by educating consumers on impact of waste, food wastage. Once again, I support the motion. I thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Musanga Batware. I go to the Honorable Ministers now, if they have to contribute, if any. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Actually, I've had the conversation and the debate around food safety, wastage, climate change, and they're all related to food security within the community. And I tend to believe there is a sectoral committee within the council that deals with agriculture, food production and safety, and I tend to agree with the fact that this has been approved and it's fundamentally contributed into by the members, and I support the fact that various levels within the Council of Ministers and within their varied sectoral committees must take into it that we disseminate this information in our member states, so that again, we reduce what we call hunger, as somebody said, we reduce starvation, we reduce suffering of our citizens. So I tend to believe this is the right way, and I agree with your sentiments. I tend to comply, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Now I call Honorable Umukiza to reply.
I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for again giving me the floor to address this August Assembly. The motion was well received, and I'm glad for that. And then I would like, as I thank people who second the motion and contribute, I would like to highlight some, add the inputs key for us to take. Honorable Guy Deng, thank you very much for standing firm on behalf of the substantial seconder that was not around. Hunger definitely kills. You added that word, and it's very key that we know that how to turn food waste into energy. This is technologies. How can we support our farmers to avoid food waste? We are even addressing all of these inputs to the Council of Ministers. Just as a reminder, technology measures are key for packaging, and then also focusing on reusable materials as we package. It's very important as to bridge the gap between waste and hunger. Some members also refer to this, like Honorable Aisha, bridging the gap is very, very key. As I go to Honorable Aisha, I thank you for supporting. Supporting the motion is key. The food insecurity, which is true. And again, efforts to bridge the gap between hunger and waste is paramount as we use new technologies. As per the head of states last summit in 2023, they committed to smart agriculture. Strategies are needed. Behavioral change in our eating manner. What we leave on our plates not only affect the environment, but they also affect some people that can eat it later on. Honorable Amongin, you mentioned something very key that I would like.
Very low rate of savings. Private and public investment in the partner states, and the joint projects collectively identified by the partner states under Treaty 87, under Article 87 of the treaty, and acknowledging that although partner states have provided various incentives in specific sectors and locations with the intention of increasing investment in those areas or regions, these have proved inadequate to catalyze development in certain critical areas and disadvantaged regions of the community. Noting that there is a growing need to attract more private investors through public-private partnerships in order to bridge the infrastructure funding gap to meet the investment targets of the partner states set out in the Sustainable Development Goals. And aware that although development banks like the East African Development Bank and the Trade and Development Bank play a vital role, their focus on loan provisions leaves a critical gap in project incubation and early-stage risk mitigation. And convinced that an East African Investment Bank can drive sustainable economic growth, create jobs, and empower the region to tackle the climate change crisis. And further convinced that the establishment of an investment bank for the community will bridge the gap left by the development banks by taking on development risk, providing seed capital, and actively supporting project development, enhancing bankability, which will in turn attract investors and promote the region as a single investment destination. Recognizing that Article 49(2)(d) of the treaty empowers the Assembly shall discuss all matters pertaining to the community and make recommendations to the Council as it may deem necessary for the implementation of the treaty. And aware that under Article 59(1) of the treaty, any member may propose any motion in the Assembly. Therefore, be it resolved by the Assembly as follows: that in accordance with Article 49(2)(d), 59(1), 79, 80, 83 2D, 87, and 129 1A of the treaty, the Assembly recommends to the Council of Ministers to establish an investment bank for the community to facilitate the industrial development, investment, and socio-economic development within the community. This motion is seconded by Francine Rutazana. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay.
Thank you, can move. Now you justify your motion.
Honorable members, in our meeting in Nairobi in March, His Excellency President William Ruto challenged us to look for reliance in finance, self-reliance in finance. And there are many development banks today. There are many banks. There is the East African Development Bank, there is the Trade and Development Bank, and there are many commercial banks. But all of these banks play the role of giving loans. That leaves a very critical that there are no banks in East Africa today which are prepared to invest money in incubation and to promote new projects. Now, the East African Investment Bank will bridge this gap that is left by the commercial and development banks with early FIs and other investment banks. Now, our first challenge, Waziri from Kenya, is to go to our president and tell him, Your Excellency, you gave us a challenge in March, now put your money where your mouth is. So, and I'm sure, knowing His Excellency President William Ruto, this is something that he will support. Now, the areas that this bank will invest in: infrastructure development. For example, power plants. There are few banks which are prepared to invest in the incubation of power plants. Yet we all know that there's a huge power shortage across Africa. But once this power project starts, the equipment manufacturers and the people who do the building of the contractors are willing to invest because they understand that risk. And once these power plants start to generate cash flow, the pension funds are more than happy to invest in them. It is the first part, the incubation part, that is missing. The second one is agricultural developers are selling $2.9 billion worth of coffee. Germany, which doesn't grow a single bean of coffee, is the fourth largest exporter of coffee in the world at $3.3 billion. I mean, come on. It is critical for our economies that if we're going to get in that stage, our farmers will continuously remain poor unless we start up with value addition. The numbers will speak for themselves. Kenya is the fifth largest exporter of coffee in Africa, and we're doing 252 million. Germany, 3.3 billion. There's something wrong with us. Okay? The World Bank and we have recognized that special economic zones are critical for our development. That is what took China from a third world country into a first world economic power, by setting up special economic zones. We need banks to incubate these. Now, if we depend on development banks, it's a long call. This is why you need investment banks that will raise the money for this type of projects. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, the challenge before this House is I'm hoping that I can convince this House that this is critical for our development. It is important that we go back, if you believe in this idea, that we go back to our respective governments and lobby for this thing. we need to find the funding internally to do the feasibility study for this idea, to take it from an idea into a reality, and to establish a bank with the right technical competence, with the right international relationships, and the right corporate governance to make it a world-class institution. And I believe we can do it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Shabal. Thank you. You are very qualified and professional in that matter. And we are lucky to have ministers today with us. Otherwise, we would have been talking to ourselves as we have been doing. And we believe that they will discuss this issue when they have to meet. So, honorable members, with this I propose honorable members, the motion on the floor is that this assembly do recommend to the Council of Ministers to establish an investment bank for the community to facilitate industrial development, investment, and socio-economic development. Debate is open, but we start by the seconder, who is Honorable Francine from Rwanda. You have the floor.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Allow me to start by thanking my colleague, Honorable Shabar, for a good and timely motion, which is coming to support the investment in the region. Right Honorable Speaker, the EAC is widening in numbers, but when we see how the community is growing, it can be transformed in a single investment area, whereby our small entrepreneurs and project people and businessmen will be at a level of accessing the long-term investment at a low rate of interest, differently to what they are gaining when they go through the commercial bank, which are offering the high rates, but at a short-term loan. So, Right Honorable Speaker, we also know that the frameworks in the East African community have opened opportunities to cooperate in investment and industrial development to rationalize investment and promote efficiency in production through a value chain approach. Such a goal of value chain promotion should not be achieved if the EAC does not have and does not explore innovative and market-based approach to allow access to long-term loans and also to support suppliers through the value chain process. And the region has already harmonized and rationalized investment incentives, which create a preferential treatment to small and medium enterprises, but also lead to facilitate coordination of present and future consumption, to open up a larger financial institution providing capital finance and engaging public-private partnership, also to design and underwriting new securities and selling them to the investors by adding liquidity to the market. Right Honorable Speaker, when we see how our business people, when they wanted to invest, they are lacking the incubation capital. This East African Bank will be the opportunity for them to get that amount that those resources, those funds, so they will not be frustrated when they want to go for long term, but the commercial bank are not allowing them to get those long-term loans. By concluding, Right Honorable Speaker, allow me to confirm that EAC region needs such an investment bank to open up such opportunities to make the region a single area industry, a single investment area, and also an attractive market for investors. This will definitely boost economy in the region, will create jobs, and also will make the region self-reliant towards a sustainable development. For those few words, Right Honorable Speaker, allow me once again to thank Honorable Shabar for a timely motion which will bring and help this region to grow more and more. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Francine. Others members who want to contribute? Honorable Alodi, Honorable Caroline, Honorable Akolorose, SG, Honorable SG, Honorable Francoise, Honorable Dr. Magembe, Kakoza, Gladness, and we stop there. Please try to be short. Said. Please try to be short to allow the next item to be addressed. We start by, who was number one? Honorable Alodi, we start with you. Can you please give the names?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to also voice my support for this motion. I do agree it is a timely motion. It is one of the things we've been talking about consistently is the fact that we need to reinvent the wheel. We need to think outside the box, and I think this is one of the major steps we should take in addressing some of the issues we have. So the first question one would ask is, why an investment bank? As Honorable Shabal has stated, yes, there is a development bank. Why not just make sure that that development bank also is empowered as opposed to going into an investment bank? And I think there needs to be more focus on private sector growth. As much as there is, again, a development bank, I do think there is a gap that needs to be addressed where funds development projects, it does not really address the needs of small businesses and startups and innovative sectors, particularly when it comes to SMEs. And as you know, those are mainly run by young people and women. So we need to support that. There is that gap that needs to be taken care of. I'd like to also bring in a few statistics to also support this motion, particularly when it comes to economic data that shows investment needs. In ESC, the investment to GDP ratio is at 24.4%. This is below the 30% recommended for the rapid growth. In Asia, for example, this ratio is around 35%. So we need to increase investments to compete globally. In Africa, on our continent, the infrastructure financing gap is between 108 billion US dollars on a yearly basis, and the ESC does have a big share of that. So key areas that need more funding include energy, transport, and technology. So that investment bank would bring in private capital for these sectors. Now, Honorable Shabal talked about a proposed structure for the ESC bank, particularly when it comes to public-private model. of partnership. I do agree that we need to maximize the impact of private sector, particularly when it comes to funding. But I would urge Honorable Shabal, because he did talk about the fact that this would focus mostly on big projects like power plants, the special economic zones. But I would urge you to also consider more funding for SMEs. As I said, that is where the gap in finances is mostly shown in most of the data that we look at. I would also argue that there is a need to improve green investments to support climate-friendly projects to meet our environmental goals. So with this being said, again, I do support the motion. I hope that this would be another way to gain more access to capital for SMEs. I do hope that it would boost regional trade. I do hope it would increase job creation.
Key institution that should be established urgently. I want to say urgently, because we are lagging behind, because East Africans and Africa at large, we are exporting raw materials to Europe. And Europe will ensure that we do that if we don't wake up. So Africa, and East Africa in particular, is a very rich region. We have all that it takes to change the lives of our people. We have the organic foods. We have the minerals. Name it, we have it. So why are we poor? Why are we poor? That's the question we should ask. So what do we need to change that narrative? So this is one of them, and I think it is key. Right Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, I just want to say that Council, you know, we move motions, we talk to ourselves here, Council will come and give assurances, but you never get any replies or any way forward on the issues that we propose here. Very important issues like this one. You never get a reply from Council on the way forward on what they have agreed. Right Honorable Speaker, on this one, I think we shall need to follow up. We will need to follow up as an assembly. If we believe that this is the way to go, we need to follow up to ensure that this East African Development Bank, how will we call it? It is not the other one. Investment Bank must be established, Right Honorable Speaker. I thank you for this opportunity, and I pray that this motion, the intent of this motion, will be taken up by the Council of Ministers. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Akol Rose. Now, Honorable SG, Secretary General, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to weigh in this discussion on this motion. Allow me to also congratulate the Honorable Shaban for tabling this motion. Indeed, it's a timely intervention that is required and advances our priorities on common market protocol, specifically on the movement of goods support, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable SG, for those informations. Now we go to the next, Dr. Honorable Françoise.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I will be brief. After I have heard from the ACG, I rise to commend the mover of the motion. It remains relevant and also useful because having served the Eala 4, I remember how this East African Investment Bank, if established, though, through the treaty, as you have said, we will continue to make sure we comply with the rules and laws, because this house is also the house of rules and laws. But it is useful for the people that are moving the trade. It's supporting trade. For instance, we know there are what we call mergers and acquisition in trade. And these are cross-border trade that are supporting deals when we talk of trade. So it is very important that we also talk of equity and debt capital.
Procedure, Honorable Akol Rose.
Come to the fore.
Can you come to this side?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker,
your microphone is off.
I'm raising on a procedural matter that normally when we debate either motions or bills or whatever we handle in this House, once members have finished to deliberate and contribute, then we call upon the Council and then the Secretary General, Right Honorable Speaker. Now, the Secretary General has spoken in reply to our contributions and has guided us on the way forward for this motion. Right Honorable Speaker, is it procedurally right for us as members and as a House to continue speaking to this motion when we have already received a reply from the Secretary General over the matter and also given a way forward, Right Honorable Speaker? Is it procedurally right?
Now we start bringing issues, procedures to procedures. Yes, Honorable Mongin, but be brief. Procedure. You can come to the microphone there.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members. I'm standing on a procedural matter, a further procedural matter. As raised by also Honorable Cole, I think that the Right Honorable Secretary General was debating, and in her debate, she was also referring to the East African Development Bank, which is actually not an institution of the whole of EAC. It is an initiative of a certain group of people, including Uganda. And therefore, this is very motion that has been brought by Honorable Shabal. It's very important that a harmonized EAC bank or investment institution is put in place. So I don't think it's right for this debate to end, because this is a very important motion that members would want to contribute to. And I think that the Right Honorable Secretary General was giving opinion, of course, as the person in the steering, and I think that she would also benefit from the debate of this motion. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I wonder whether it's procedure for us to really, this is the backbone of our integration. I was wondering, Right Honorable Speaker, whether it's really right for us to end the debate when people are enthusiastic on this particular motion. Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, the Honorable SG has contributed as you are contributing. That is why it is in order to continue debating this motion. Let's continue debating. Honorable Francois.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, it's actually very important that we continue to brainstorm on this important matter, because what the SG has just mentioned, there was a kind of guidelines that we are supporting each other the Secretariat, Eala as an assembly, and then the council, because we are one team moving forward together. No one will, leave another one behind. So, the advantages of having this bank is also in terms of economic research, because what does exist does not, facilitate the research, because dealers need research and also equity research and trade finance facilities. Those ones are not in place. Providing trade finance facilities such as the letters of credit and the guarantees to facilitate the cross-border foreign trade within the EAC region is paramount, because we need a big investment that will support all of these issues we are dealing with. So I think it's in order that we continue to brainstorm on this and also to add the value of what already exists, but we innovate as an assembly. It is in order. And you know how CTI committee is interconnected with agriculture. When we talk of value addition and the value chain, we can't just go without adding this input, because it's very important that we boost our industrial development in terms of our own initiatives. What we can bring to the community that is innovative, that is new, and that will speed up and accelerate widening, deepening integration. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I submit and I support the motion.
Thank you, Honorable Francoise. Now we go to Dr. Magembe.
Right, Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. My contribution will be brief. I'd like to congratulate Honorable Shabal. This is an example of a motion that brings practical solutions to the challenges that our business people are facing within the community. And I would like to say that during my study years, a long time ago, when I was doing my PhD, this is one of the issues that I was looking at. I was looking at the issues of the cost of credit. Why is the cost of credit high? Why is the cost of production high within our region? And you will find that the cost of production in East Africa is 25% of the value of things that you sell, while in China it's 8%. So one of the reasons is because we have very poor infrastructure within our region. And two, another reason is because the cost of credit is very high. In East Africa, on average, the cost of credit is about 18% to 21%. While in countries like China, America, Indonesia, it's 3%, 4%. So this bank it's a very, very good idea. We support the motion, Honorable Shabal. Once this bank is established, and we hope that the leadership of the community takes it seriously. Once it is established, it will help lower the cost of credit, and also it will invest in infrastructure. Investing in infrastructure cuts the cost of production almost in half. Almost in half. And you heard Honorable Shabal here talking about the special economic zones. The Chinese implemented the special economic zones, but they also improved their roads. They improved their railway system. If you go to China, traveling from South Africa to Kenya is 3 or 4 hours with their bullet trains. And they have a network like this throughout the whole country. So we support this motion heavily, and we will do our best to give you support. It mustn't just end here as a motion. It is carried, and then it ends here. It must happen. All right. After those few words, Right Honorable Speaker, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Magembe. Now, Honorable Kakoza.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I want also to add my voice to support the motion. I think, Right Honorable Speaker, this motion is concerned with investment bank to facilitate industrial development investment and socio-economic development. Do the existing banks do that? For me, the objective of this bank, those existing banks don't do that. Because if it was doing that, on the continent, we have all our partner states. They always go to Exim Bank in China. They always go to African Development Bank. So this innovation of a bank, which is for investment, it's a mobilization of resources that includes private-public partnership. One of the reasons why the Asian Tigers succeeded to be the first-class number one, what they did, where governments could not provide a service, they went for public-private partnership. But why? Because there were people funding those projects that were able to spur the economy of that country. I traveled from Singapore to Kuala Lumpur by road. It takes about 3 hours. But that road attracted amount of money worth $255 billion. But what they did, they went for public-private partnership in the investment bank, and they collected a return on the resources which were meted. And the government got a service, and even people who had invested got the return on their investment. In Africa here, especially East African banks, we have the one which the Secretary General is talking about, does not support the infrastructure development. You hear it goes to SMEs. We investigated last time that the shareholders within the partner states don't even contribute more than the foreigners. We cannot run countries of partner states in economic growth when we are begging from these donors. Look at the funding of the value addition. The whole growth of crops in Africa, like what Shabal said, coffee in Europe, rarely they produce the amount of coffee we produce. But they are the best beneficiary of this. Coffee attracts $45 billion in the world. Africa, we are picking only almost, I think, $8 billion. You can imagine the difference between $45 billion and $8 billion. Whereas, for us, our climate change, our environment, makes us to benefit more than those who don't grow it. Especially in Germany, where they are saying that they are most producers of Nescafe. But we are exporting raw material to these countries. So value addition cannot be there without having access to funds. A factory for coffee is more than $15 billion. So when you don't have an investment bank to lend money to this private sector, you won't get it. The only way out to survive for prosperity for our people is innovativeness of the bank so that we can cut costs on investments. Recently, we had discussed 2 days ago about the transport on lakes. Right when I was speaking, I told you that to pick a boat which is in Tanzania from Zanzibar to Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, it cost about $8 million without taxes. But if you had got an investment bank to deal with infrastructure, we couldn't go to Exim Bank to borrow. We could have gone to that bank and help us our infrastructure. With those few remarks, I would like to support this investment bank. It's needed as soon as yesterday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Kakoza. Now, Honorable Kibeya.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, to allow me to support heavily this motion presented by Honorable Shahbal, which is a critical point to allow implement Article 79 of the treaty. We know that Article 80, the strategy and policy for industrial development, since 12 years ago, the Council adopted a right strategy for industrial policy and strategy, but up to now, if we can evaluate, there is little things that was done in this area for agro-processing, for mineral processing, for automotives, electronics, and so on, as it is as a priority raised or identified in the right strategy, I said. We may recall that the community established also a commission for the development and application of science and technology and innovation in the community. We may also recall that a number of centers of excellence were established to tackle the development of industrial capacity in our region. I may here recall that by the Protocol for Common Market Development, around Article 42, that is for industrial development, the couple of industrial development and investment is there. And that is why the Council presented a budget for harmonization of investment code model in the community. But investment code that we have in our partner state rely mainly for supporting foreign direct investment.
We used to have, and whether there is a need to put some points right here that would revisit some of these institutions we had, and then guide properly whether we even need to explore many gaps in between since then, so that we can be able to strengthen ourselves given the current situation of the economy, the challenges that we face as a community, so that we strengthen and move forward. And again, to look at the investment in itself and the roles, Mheshimiwa Shabal spoke, they are very instrumental, they are very insightful, and at least I can say that there's something not to ignore. You can't ignore that bit. There is need to look. And the amendment of treaties was proposed, I think, a few months ago by the Council, and I think these are part of the things we will look into and then strengthen our way forward. And I know within the Council also there is the Council Secretary in charge of finances, and they will look into this, and we find their opinion also, so that we put all this opinion together, then come up with a proper way forward. Mr. Speaker, I tend to leave for that matter.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Do you have a microphone?
Mr. Speaker, I'm standing under the provisions of Rule 47, Sub-Rule D of the Rules of the Assembly relating to clarification. Mr. Speaker, according to what I have heard from the Secretary General and also Honorable Minister here, for this resolution to be workable, it needs for the amendment of the treaty, of which it is not in the powers of the Council of the Ministers. I've also read Chapter 3 of the treaty, which is providing for the establishment of the institutions within the community, of which the powers are granted to the summit heads. And I've also read the resolution that has been made. The resolution says, or requires, the Council of the Ministers to establish investment bank. The way the resolution as it is not workable. It needs first the treaty to be amended so that the establishment of the bank be agreed upon by the summit heads. Mr. Speaker, in that circumstances, I would wish this resolution to be struck out because it is not workable and actually it is contradicting the provisions of the treaty, as these powers are not in the hands of the Council of the Ministers. I beg to move.
Honorable Chair of Legal, Honorable Msamali Wait. Honorable Honorable Chair of Legal, if you have a question to ask to ex-official members who are with us, you can formulate it and you will pause, you will ask it to them. Otherwise, what you have brought there are concerns, they are not clarifications. What did you move? Go and formulate your questions properly. Honorable Chair.
Mr. Speaker.
You can go back to your seat, you formulate your question properly, then you ask it properly, then we will respond. Otherwise, you know that our report here, our motions, you know how the way they follow. They go to the Council of Ministers, then they go to... Thank you, Honorable Chair. Now I invite the mover, Honorable Francoise, to come and... Honorable Shabal, I'm sorry. Honorable Shabal to come and reply.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all those who have supported this motion, including the Honorable Secretary General and our Minister from Kenya. Company is established and it goes in there and succeeds, it will open the floodgates to investment in that area. That is the role of the investment bank. I refer to the comments of my co-chairman from legal. Unfortunately, this is the challenge of lawyers. They always look at problems rather than solutions. And the lawyers are designed in their contracts to design all contracts like divorce documents. Who will keep the cat and who will take the dog? But I'm coming here from a private sector perspective. Let us find solutions, not problems. If there are challenges in the treaty and we are determined to make this thing happen, we will find solutions. So I want to thank everybody who contributed to this thing. I am convinced that if we set up this bank, it will make an enormous difference. To the development of our region. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Shabal. Those who have contributed to your motion are Honorable Alodi, Honorable Carolina, Honorable Akolo Rose, Honorable SG, Honorable Francoise, Honorable Dr. Magembe, Honorable Kakoza, Honorable Kiwea, Honorable Kakoza, Honorable Kiwea, and Honorable Minister. Honorable members, I now put the question that this House do recommend to the Council of Ministers to establish an investment bank for the community to facilitate industrial development investment and the socio-economic development. Those who are in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Item number 8 on the order paper.
Honorable
Item number 8 on the order paper. Priority questions on the order paper. Priority questions for oral answer.
Honorable Akolo Rose. Is she around? She walked out. She's not in the chamber.
To move this motion. Motion for a resolution of the Assembly urging the Council of Ministers to recommend to the Summit to urgently constitute the panel of EAC eminent persons to facilitate and support peace and security and the management of conflict in the community. It is moved under Article 49, 2D, 59, 1 of the treaty, and Rule 26 of the Rules of Procedures of the Assembly. I beg to move, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Do you have seconders? Honorable Siranda, Honorable Luke, Honorable Gideon, Honorable Kadogo, and others.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, members, for seconding and supporting this motion. Whereas, under Article 5 of the Treaty for the Establishment of the East African Community, the partner states undertook to promote peace, security, and stability within East Africa and good neighborliness among the partner states. Whereas through Article 124 of the treaty, the partner states agreed that peace and security are prerequisites to social and economic development within the community and vital to the achievement of the objectives of the community. Recognizing that the partner states have concluded and are implementing protocols on peace and security and cooperation in defense affairs, and the Council has adopted a strategy on regional peace and security and conflict prevention, management, and resolution mechanism, noting that the regional peace and security and conflict prevention, management, and resolution mechanism provides for the establishment of a panel of eminent persons to facilitate and support mediation and negotiation as a strategy of managing conflict in the community. Aware that in 2015, Honorable Speaker, the 16th ordinary meeting of the Summit of EAC Heads of State approved the modalities for the appointment of the East African Community eminent persons and special envoys, and decided that eminent persons and special envoys will be appointed whenever the need arises. Appreciating the role of the summit in providing direction and guidance to the community and reviewing the state of peace and security in the community, convinced that in order to foster and maintain an atmosphere that is conducive to peace and security, and in order to promote better management and the resolution of disputes and conflicts in the community, it is necessary to constitute the panel of eminent persons. Recognizing that Article 49(2)(d) of the treaty enjoins the Assembly to discuss all matters pertaining to the community and make recommendations to the Council as it may deem necessary for the implementation of the treaty, aware that under Article 59(1) of the treaty, any member may propose any motion in the Assembly. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Assembly as follows: that in accordance with Articles 49(2)(d) and 59(1) of the treaty, the Assembly recommends to the Council of Ministers to urgently recommend to the Summit to constitute the panel of eminent persons to facilitate and support peace and security and the management of conflict in the community. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move. And the seconder is the Honorable Kennedy Ayerson Mukulia. But when I look around, he seemed to be still attending to some other matters. And the Honorable Gideon Gatpan is standing in. Honorable Speaker.
Thank you for moving. Now you justify your motion.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, once again for allowing this motion. As you may have read, all of you members, from the head of the motion itself, it is about mechanism, providing a mechanism to conflict resolution in the region. But, Honorable Speaker, before I make the justification, I want to take this opportunity to thank the government of the Republic of Kenya through its arm of the judiciary. This morning, I heard on radio that the High Court in Kenya has convicted 2 people who participated in the murder of a Ugandan athlete in Eldoret in 2023 called Benjamin Kiplagat. These criminals have been sentenced to 35 years in jail, Honorable Speaker. So I found it very necessary to appreciate the government of Kenya for the speed they put in ensuring the justice of the late Kiplagat. Honorable Speaker, about the motion, as you may be aware, the community, we do not have a permanent conflict and peace enforcement mechanism. All the mechanisms that we have are basically temporal. They are basically temporal, like the East African Standby Force. We don't own it. We just mobilize forces here and there. All the security and the peace mechanisms that are there are basically temporal. Right Honorable Speaker, Article 124 of the treaty, as already alluded to, partner states, through the heads of state, agreed that for us to move as a community, peace and security is a prerequisite. And therefore, it is a precursor for development. By the way, I will give an example. If you want to test the absence of peace, you go to Somalia. there is no meaningful development there. Even here in Eastern Congo, within our own region, people are dying every day because of insecurity. So, but besides conflicts that are caused, either ethnic conflicts or because of tribal, or because of shared resources, or because of the borders, the artificial borders which we have, Honorable Speaker, many of us have experienced conflict, but sometimes there has been a lack of a mechanism to address these conflicts. Because, honorable members, as you may all be aware, conflict is an inherent or a natural phenomenon. We cannot avoid it. It will always be there. People will conflict either over resources, over even some of the things are not mentioned them for record purposes. But at least you know very well. So, I will give an example. Conflict has occurred or continues to occur within the partner states themselves or among partner states. Within Uganda, for example, or Uganda and another partner state. I will give an example of conflict over artificial boundaries. We have had problems, but I will give one small example. Uganda and South Sudan. We have had a long-standing conflict over the artificial boundaries. Every day people have been killing themselves there. And they are the same people, from one side of the border and the other one. They are the same people. But because of the so-called artificial boundary, people have continued fighting and even killing each other. We have shared resources. Lake Albert here is shared between Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Lake Victoria is shared between three partner states, Kenya, Uganda, and the United Republic of Tanzania. But you are all aware of the problems we have had on Lake Victoria. People are fighting over fish, that this fish belongs to Tanzania, and this fish belongs to Kenya. I don't know whether fish can recognize borders in the water. So, then on Lake Albert, the same we have had with the DRC. I'm just giving those simple examples. So, we feel that conflict will always, in fact, there is another strange one, where Uganda and Kenya has had a long-standing dispute over a 1-acre island called Mijingo. You can now imagine. But all these things, we expect that they will continue if we don't put in place mechanisms to provide for a solution. Honorable Speaker, now, in the Peace and Security Protocol, it is provided that there shall be a panel of eminent members, eminent persons from the community who will be appointed by the summit, such that they will be there to provide, say in terms of to help in negotiation, to help in mediation, to help in even preventing potential conflicts and the issues that will create insecurity, Honorable Speaker and members. However, in 2015, the heads of state, in their 16th ordinary meeting, sat and resolved that the appointment, and agreed on the modalities, first of all, for appointment of the panel of eminent persons. But they also went ahead and said, this panel shall be appointed as and when need arises. I find this a little bit disturbing, Honorable Speaker and members, that conflict is almost a continuous phenomenon. Now, if you say that we shall wait for conflict or insecurity, when it occurs, that's when we shall have this panel. First of all, it takes a bureaucracy to have members to convene the summit, to agree. And by the way, the summit is made up of heads of state of the member states. The conflict may be between the 2 or 3 partner states. And for the summit to take place and agree on that mechanism, they will need all of them. And those who may be conflict one or two may refuse to come and attend the meeting. So you'll find it a little bit disturbing. So that's why I have come to seek your support here, honorable members, that we urge the Council of Ministers, we recommend to the Council of Ministers to urge the summit, because this is a summit matter, to urge the summit to have this panel put in place, honorable members, such that we are able to provide a mechanism. We should not wait for Americans, we should not wait for the Europeans whenever there are problems in the community, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move and I beg to submit, and I also ask for your support, honorable members. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Musamali. I now propose the motion that this Assembly urge the Council of Ministers to recommend to the summit to urgently constitute the panel of EAC eminent persons to facilitate and support peace and security and the management of conflict in the region. The debate is open, and we start by the second Honorable Gideon. Thank you. So I now put the question that those who are in favor of the motion moved by Honorable Ngol.
We have examples. We have visited SADC as a Committee on Regional Affairs. We have also visited COMESA. We have visited the IGSR in Burundi. We have learned the difference between a need-based mechanism or a need-based panel to handle issues of conflict and a permanent or a continuously mandated body to deal with the rising conflict in the region. Right, Honorable Speaker, it is high time that we support this motion and encourage our Council of Ministers and the members of Parliament to be able to advance these ideas, to urge our summit to be able to form the panel.
Thank you, Honorable Amongin. With this climate change issue, we will face, of course, crisis. So I don't know how you can formulate this, because his amendment was about politics, conflicts, something like that. Honorable Musamali, are you taking it? The amendment.
Honorable Speaker, I think procedurally I'll do it.
You respond when you have the floor.
I'll do it in reply. Thank you.
You are welcome. Now I give the floor to who's the next?
This motion of having eminent personnel within it is very important, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, because conflict, just like the mustard seed, starts small. Conflict, just like the mustard seed, starts small and grow big. It is easier for you to prevent conflicts when they are still small, when they are still in teething stages, when they are still starting their growth, Honorable Speaker. Honorable
chapter that we are dealing with. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I believe that this motion
is very timely. We can never have a community that is growing fastest like this, as sometimes I believe we are widening more than deepening. We require the modalities on how do we resolve our issues. How do we deal with mediation, given that we are growing every day? Growth is very important, but the Honorable Msamali is giving us a perspective and is just giving us a shock absorber in terms of how we'll deal with it. Right Honorable Speaker, peace and
motion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Motion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Luke, for being brief. Yes, Honorable James.
Honorable Speaker, I want to congratulate my brother, Honorable Msamali, for bringing up a very great topic and motion. And Honorable Speaker, I speak from a background being from Tanzania, a country that has enjoyed over 60 years of peace and security, and stability. So being part of this country, I know exactly what he wants to bring on board. However, Honorable Speaker, in most cases, be it in the African Union, be it in the UN, eminent persons, due to practice, mostly, are appointed in an ad hoc situation. They are normally not permanent. I'm bringing this kind of an outlook as well, knowing for sure that our community is also running out of resources. We don't have, enough money unless Honorable Msamali and the Seconder comes with a modus operandi of either trying to convince this parliament to only mention and identify a number of eminent persons or envoys within our region, be it in South Sudan, be it in Tanzania, be it in Kenya, and just mentioning them the way my colleague from Kenya, a Maasai, say we have like Guanak all over the place, but they're not paid. Because mostly when you appoint an eminent person, there are costs, implications to it. Salaries, transport, their health insurances, then you have to look it at holistically. I'm being persuaded by what you are saying, but and presidents and heads of summit had put it very rightly. They said, it should be where the need arises only. You remember the issue of Migingo. You've talked about it. Then at that specific time, we should be appointing eminent persons. When it comes to an issue of Lake Victoria, for instance, we should be appointing some. I'm only trying to bring a logic to members of parliament, like, it should not be permanent. Unless, yes,
solutions to the causes of the conflicts, and also the panel to always mediate and settle disputes. And secondly, in relation to that, we need to make good of the eminent people whom we have in the ES, for example. Whenever we are having a session or opening a session in a particular country, I think we need to call on these eminent people in a particular country for institution memory. For example, as we are opening up the session in Uganda, we were supposed to invite some some important people, the former speakers, the former Secretary General. Those are the people whom I'm referring to as eminent people in the community. So we need this continuous consultation and also the continuous guidance. And on the issue of solving the solutions, on the issue of solving the causes that bring about conflicts, I think also we need a panel that will look at these issues at a deeper length. For example, the causes, what are the causes of the conflicts, and then what resolutions can be made so that these conflicts don't occur again. Because the conflicts range from big conflicts like poverty, hunger, and also to boundary misunderstandings, to issues of climate change. So the panel will help us if it's constituted and it's permanent. It will help us to resolve these issues.
Summit, then of course to convey through the council the same to be submitted to the summit for decision making, but also to create a context of the funding situation that persistently remains negative. I support. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Honorable SG. Now, the mover of the motion, Honorable Minister, do you have the... Thank you, Honorable Minister. You have the floor. We are facing some noise at that side, but we are finishing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I concur with the proposals that have been put in the sense that we may need to take the proposal and having in mind the summit position of 2015 so that we can be able to see how best to present that to them, because it was their decision that is a bit superior to ours. So I think this one has a room for consultation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for being brief, Honorable Minister. I am Samali.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and members, for the support. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank members who debated, who were able to get the opportunity to debate, who were able to get the opportunity to debate and supported. Even those who did not get the opportunity to debate, I saw you, many of you, you were nodding vertically, meaning that you are in support. Thank you. Let me just make a few clarifications, Mr. Speaker. On the issue of amendment proposed by Honorable Amongin, I will not be able to take it following our rules of procedure, that an amendment should be relevant to the motion. So the amendment she was proposing was totally different, but it is equally important and it can be covered elsewhere, just like Honorable Siranda alluded to. The same amendment by Honorable Gerard Siranda about adding the word mediation. Me, I see this as if it is done, if the panel is established, this will be just one of the terms of reference. So it doesn't have to be put in the motion. And then now, Honorable Media James was suggesting that we should leave it as temporary as it is. Now, and then I got a problem with Honorable James Media, because he came and he started by saying that he has the experience of Tanzania, which has witnessed peace and stability for a long time, And what I know about Tanzania is that they have a council of elders, what they call Baraza la Wazee. They exist from the lowest village to up to the highest level. And Tanzania has witnessed peace and stability for a very long time. It is an island of peace in East Africa. Now, media, I get paradoxically disturbed when you say that we should not support this when there is already an example. For me, you are suffering from eating too much. And in people here, it's like eating too much. When people here eat a lot of food, they belch. You know belching? When you finish eating a lot of yes. Now for you, you are suffering from belching.
Order.
So,
Honorable Msamali, we have order. You can use the other.
Honorable Speaker, I think Honorable Msamali is out of order for using unparliamentary language and demeaning our colleague, member of parliament, that is eating so much, yet I'm a witness that Msamali eats twice as much as Milia eats.
Honorable Msamali. Honorable Msamali.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Incidentally, he has also used the same language. So I don't know. But you hadn't got me well. I didn't mean that he eats a lot. I meant that because Tanzania has lived in peace for a long time, it is just like somebody who has eaten a lot of food, and then he is there. And belching is not a bad thing. Belching is a sign of satisfaction. So I was just saying that my colleague there, maybe he has suffered a lot of satisfaction. You get it? And we want also the rest of us. For us as Uganda, for example, we have gone through a lot of challenges. Not only Uganda, the rest of us. In Kenya itself, 2007, 2008, we had to import Kofi Annan all the way from wherever they came from. So simply, what we are talking about, it's not a game. It's not a joke. So that's why I'm saying that I will not support, but the good thing that majority of the members are supporting that we have it. And I want to urge Comrade James Milia to join us in supporting the formation, the establishment of this. And then lastly, Right Honourable Speaker, the issue of funds, which the Secretary General and the Honourable James Milia was talking about, is that we should not be talking about issues of funds. Because this community, unless we are hiding our heads in the sand like ostriches, this community, every part of the state, every year the ombudsmen have been saying that part of the states have been losing money in corruption. Let me use the example of Uganda. That we lose 10 trillion Uganda shillings, which is equivalent to 30 billion US dollars. Yes, equivalent to 30 billion US dollars every year into corruption. So meaning that if we address issues of corruption, we will be able to save funds here and there and do things that mean a lot to our lives. You are talking about the temporary measure. You saw what happened to the temporary measure of the peace facility in DRC. The community provided $6 million. Up to now, we cannot account for it. And the matter is even before the legal committee of the assembly. Because of this temporariness, and the people can do anything. But we believe that if this panel is reconsidered by the heads of state, and it is reconstituted, it is established, we can work within the available means. I just beg that I just wind up.
The information.
I was very reluctant that I just conclude kindly.
But Honorable Speaker, the money that was embezzled was not due to ad hoc basis of the committee, but rather rules and procedure, financial rules of our community were not followed. This has to be very clear. And please, Honorable Msamali, just be not emotional. We're trying to discuss and bring sense to this parliament and this community.
I'm not emotional because I am allergic to emotions. Yeah, I'm allergic. I can't be emotional. I find a way of addressing it. What I'm saying, all that is coming because of the temporariness, the issue of rules or what. But if the panel is already there, there will be already clear procedures. So someone will not hide behind something else. Right about Speaker, we as East Africans and as humanists, we should not hide behind unnecessary excuses. Let's do things to liberate ourselves. And I want to leave this issue with the members. We, the humanists who are here on earth, and those of us who are existing in East Africa, we should be proud of God. Because God created us as humanists. We are mammals. But he created us humanists and he gave us the brain, superior brain. In addition to superior brain, he gave us conscience. We are able to think and deduce from what's bad and good, including the issue of addressing conflict. Honorable Speaker, by the way, if God chose to create any of us into a goat, it would have been eaten already. If we had been created into a tree, we would be part of the wood which is here. Or even if you are a lion, however fierce it is, it can't live for long. The moment it grows old and cannot hunt, it will die. So we should thank God that we are superior and we have the conscience, and we should use this conscience and the brain which God gave us to address our problems. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me thank the members who contributed to this motion. Honorable Gideon Gatpan, you fit in the shoes very well, and you brought in a lot of value. Honorable Jacqueline Amongin, Honorable Dr. Ole Sankok, Honorable Dr. Siranda Gerard, Honorable Luke Thompson, Honorable James Milia, Honorable Veronica Kadogo, Honorable Clement Musangabatware, the Honorable Secretary General Veronica Anduva, and the Honorable Minister Beatrice Askulmoi, Cabinet Secretary. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and for allowing this motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Msamali. I now put the question that this House do recommend to the Council of Ministers to establish an investment. I had gone to my friend there motion. Where is your... Which page? Where is he? Okay, I'm there. I now, honorable members, and from me, for those who were not there at the beginning, we had made our communication. I hope the CTI chair is around and has followed. Has he gone? Please, this is very important. These bills have been delayed. They have taken years and years. As the ministers are around, we should expedite them. So this afternoon, this afternoon, the CTI committee should meet the ministers and discuss the Statistic Bureau bill and the standards bill, because tomorrow afternoon we are able to handle the statistics bill if they are ready and it is there.
So is it in this hall?
The clerk will communicate. This is one. Second, immediately after this meeting, they can even follow me. I have a very brief communication for the chair for the chapters. They can even follow me in my office. Thank you. With this, I adjourn to tomorrow, 10 a.m. morning.